At my North Americans, and boy, are they in a bad position right now. Unless I get some discoveries that give me money, I think. They have, and this is 2046, 2043. They have a tired crew. They can't replenish them at their base redstone. It's empty. I could fire stuff up. So I don't have the LV4 yet. A couple people do. But I could fire up an LV2 or 3 or whatever. Even a 1. But a 2 would be the minimum to get a base up there that's of any value to me. And if I sent a supply station, that would cost 2 materials, an LV2, that would be 5. I've got that kind of money, but the problem is this. It's not good enough. I would also need to send 2 resources to this thing. I can't lift that off Earth on its own, so I think what I'm going to count on is sending the mining station up with an LV2, which is definitely not optimal. I probably don't really want an LV2. But here's the thing. If I do find some stuff, I can either... Launching materials in an LV2 is kind of a bad deal. Wait. Maybe the LV3 costs just as much. Nope. It's $1 more. And sometimes these are different. So I don't know about the LVs, but I heard something about, hey, is this a misprint? Because the counter mixes are kind of weird. And the designer says, no, it might be this kind of circumstance. Okay, so yeah, it would cost me 5 to get enough materials up there to build a base. But I can use the LV2 if it survives, which is likely, to launch something, maybe a space telescope or something, if I get more money in the turn. So do I want to do it now, or do I just want to hold? The production can't happen now. Maybe I just want to hold on and see what happens, because building that base doesn't really help me. And maybe just send my ship over to the base and play things out, see what I discover. I think most of the players are kind of in the same position. I've worked my way through the bottom 3. And some people like Asia seem to have some money, but for the most part the players don't have a lot of cash sticking around that they can do much with anyway. So they're all kind of waiting to get more. And that shows that maybe I made a good move with the people who held off on things rather than just building these mining stations right off and sending extra resources that I don't need up with them. Of course, Asia is one of the people with the money, but like Japan and South America I'm looking at, they just don't have the money to do shit right now. And so this is a turn where not many people did much in terms of movement. We got a couple deployments to planets people are interested in, or planetoids they're interested in, things that maybe they're just, opportunities, like let's go look at that comet. I don't know if that's all comets or some specific one. I get the feeling that it's kind of that when comets go through Mars, hey, that's a good close place to look at them, and that's what it's intended to represent. In a way, if it's that abstraction, well, it's hard to hit a comet. So maybe it's a good abstraction for it, but where you need a base area to go for it, so it's kind of advantageous, and sometimes it represents a different kind of move as an abstraction. I'm not sure how much I like that, but there are always trade-offs in terms of how well you want to represent the reality versus the trade-off. And we also have people going home, both here and things that were already programmed that landed for possible servicing. In the case of Asia, yeah, they probably will service that. That'll cost them 2, or they'll use it as a slightly cheaper way to haul 4 stuff instead of 3. Not as good as Russia's big hauler, but why send? It's not like I have enough money to keep supplying my base and keep building it up. So why not do it a little cheaper? If that thing survives. For the kind of extraneous babbling, I noticed on BGG somebody else is running the campaign game too. They actually started before me and they're quite a bit further along. if you haven't made this decision now, I would stick with one or the other. You know, I can't imagine boinking back and forth. Honestly, I like to watch something, you know, kind of continuously, not, you know, in one sitting, but I wouldn't want to be waiting for something to be coming out. And both of these are going to take a while to develop. I know some people are just like, oh, new video, let's watch. I don't know if you know, obviously if either player's rate of video production is high enough that it meets your needs for how much you want to see, then that's perfect. But along with, of course, you know, whether or not you want lots of extraneous babbling and very little focus on the mechanical aspects of the game. I don't know if the other one is just continuously going through all the mechanics. I feel like that's kind of a waste. I've shown them, you know, it can be really enjoyable. I know Stuka Joe does that with his playthroughs, but he's adding a lot of story in while he's playing it out with the, oh, and so died. Like me, me being in that plane. That was kind of cool. I actually watched that one, but you know, I'm not a big fan of watching most game videos, so it's hard to tell. You know, I'm not playing to what I want. I'm playing to what I want to say. You got a good exploration turn. They got a depletion over in Callisto and succeeded in their mission, and they also succeeded with their telescope in getting a depletion up here. So they've actually gotten kind of an influx of potential money. And much as I like holding these for the research stuff, I'm so low on cash so early in the turn that I feel like, you know, I probably want to do something because I'm going to want to launch this. So those are probably going to end up getting spent. But it's a nice bonus to get, and that's why I sent the telescope up there, basically. Yeah, that only got me $1 to send that telescope up there so far. But it also got me some technology. More technology than, well, let's see. I mean, that cost me $3 plus a possible lift, but, you know, say $3. So I've almost broken even off the telescope so far, right? Because I got this, which is worth $1, and I got 3 tech, which I would say is worth, call it $1.50 for the equivalence on the politics marker. So I'm at $2.50. I'm about even, and that's pretty cool. Because not much was going on in purchases. Both Pakistan and Russia found, you know, didn't even get to roll. They didn't have anything they were doing. You know, call Pakistan Asia, except I didn't notice this. Oops. So that's a 15% or a 15 point with no chance of failure because the rover's using a probe. I only get 1 check. It's a bio check. Yeah, I mean, one good thing about using the video is I'm coming back and talking about things, which means I catch what I did wrong more often than I would otherwise, which is kind of nifty. Okay, so they actually did get a check. Russia did not at all, I think. I don't see anything of theirs out there. This is just so easy because it just blurs in, you know. It's the tightness of my table, basically. I've left a lot of space below. Maybe I should slide these suckers down a little bit because I got room for the rule book up here. But I kind of can't pull them too much further down because I need the card there. But China had a pretty decent turn. They didn't do much, but they got their depletion on Jupiter, which was their mission, and I'm always forgetting to draw new mission markers. One that they could just turn into cash, basically, because they've got 2, and this is the 2 mission decade. And they had a success over on the Comet, but they have to go home. Well, that got them an extra bio. But the biggie was getting that mission out of the way. That's just cool, you know. The last exploration in South America, I ended up success, but again, similar to the Chinese, I got not quite as good. I got a depletion there, great, you know, an extra politics marker. I succeeded on Mars. Unfortunately, but didn't get a depletion. Mars is unfortunately my goal right now, although it's a cheap mission. I've already got my 2 missions for the decade built up, but I also tired out my crew, and they're going to have to go home, and that's a pain. And then I noticed, I bet you I could have sent another material up here. What brought this there? So the base itself was built by this thing. That had to be shot. I think I can give them an extra. I could pay $1 and send them an extra thing, which would be very cool. Let me think about this. Maybe it's not the case, because maybe I got it right. But then why is everybody else got the same stuff? Like, why does Japan have 4 here? Resources. So what happened? South America had a reduced cost. No, yeah, South America had a reduced cost. So their base only cost them 3 to build. So I had an extra resource here, which is the same as Japan. However, my special ability of the launch vehicle being able to carry an extra thing, I should have spent for that. And I'm going to fix that now. I don't often go back and fix things in games, but I feel like trying to remember these special abilities is creating an unfair burden, which is some of them, like the, not that, that one's going to be a problem. The malfunction rate for the Japanese, that's baked into my head at this point. But these new ones, and some of them like the tech cost one, I know that. I get to realize that at the time. This one I know. This one, probably forget that. This one I know. But this one I haven't used. It's kind of new, and I make the choice at a time when I'm performing that action at a time when I'm not thinking, oh, let me check all the things here and my ability to make sure, I can't do that for every power all the time. Now, what about if I had this and I was playing the game for the first time, I was playing the game in a multiplayer situation with that. I would guess that I would forget it about 80% of the time still. And maybe notice after my turn, though, rather than after everybody's turn, or this deep in the turn. But sometimes it is that. I'm like, oh shit, I could have sent another thing up. Do you guys mind? And they'd be like, well, you've had decision points since then. That's not really fair. Or, yeah, that'd be cool, People who'd be like, oh, geez, no, But here's the thing. What if my rocket had failed? I probably wouldn't realize that I would have sent more stuff up. And even if I did, would I mention it? Maybe. I've caught myself doing that, being like, I know you guys always give me a break. This time, I just noticed something that I would have asked for a break, and I had a failure. I would have actually spent another $1 to send another material up. But that's because I'm very honest in that sort of way, and if they weren't giving me breaks normally, I wouldn't say that, because obviously, it doesn't really apply. But if they did give me breaks normally in that at that table of people, I would feel compelled to mention, I fucked up, and here's what I'm thinking should fix it. I would have sent more money, and I would have asked you guys, but you would have let me probably. So I just noticed it now, and I'm screwed. And in a way, it's kind of funny, because I think some people maybe aren't dishonest about that, in the sense that they would notice it and then think, I just don't think I'll say anything. Oh, I'm sure there are quite a few who are that way as well. But that they wouldn't notice what's not to their advantage. And how much would I not notice what's not to my advantage? It's quite possible there as well. There's a disinclination to look for what did you do wrong? When it's not going to help you. I don't know. Okay, so that's the exploration side. Now we're looking at base building. And let me give him something. Base building stuff, and I don't know what that's going to be. What would he send? He'll send a supply up. Fuck. Because that's sort of multi-purpose and might be more helpful. Another ore, yeah, that would help with this, but whatever. I don't know if anybody has any bases to do anything with. I'll come back if they do. The only player willing to commit to anything new cost-wise this turn was Asia, and they rebuilt or resupplied their base builder, carrier, whatever. They're going to send that out. I could have decommissioned it and tried to build something new, but I want to haul stuff back to my base, build up the mining station, build a supply station. Probably can't use the supply station this turn, but it's cheap and I'm going to need it. And then assuming I survive without having to come back with that, I can go do some exploration with that ship. It's not a bad ship to explore with. It's not great, but CVs tend, it's actually pretty bad for a CV. But CVs tend to be pretty decent exploring. Hey, I got a freighter. Huh, just like the Russians. Interesting, but not as big, is it? But it's a cheaper freighter. So the Russian freighter, yeah, the Russian freighter is really a deal. But still, you know, I might as well send this ship that I have than like probably spend everything that I could get from recouping that ship to a different one. The one question was whether to recoup it or not, or just send that 4 up. And I feel like, well, since I have to use a level 3 lifter anyway, and I have one kicking around, I might as well see if I can explore with it too. Actually, it should be able to get one exploration in because it's not going to build a base. Exciting in the movement, more ships heading home for rest and recuperation, whatever, and others out doing stuff. Most of the CVs, I think, are packaged up at home. The one exception being this one. The Russian one, I don't know what happened. It was delayed, but I feel like I missed a turn's movement, but now it's off to explore the comet. Turn for Europe or Asia, who both are the two who did their exploration so far. Europe lost their rover over here on Callisto. Asia lost theirs on Europa. Both, well, yeah. Callisto, Europe doesn't need anymore, so that's fine. But Asia needs something over on Europa, and they don't even have any missions collected yet, which, you know, is a bad sign, right? They need to collect 2 missions this turn now. I've got a flyby on Neptune, but it may be too late because it's got a probe, so it kind of has to wait until I get the flyby box to fire. Otherwise, I waste the probe, which would be a mistake. But it's only one material, $1 billion that I'd be wasting. But yeah, we lost, you know, in both cases, lost something. The Europeans, I think, got a success, but not a depletion there. Anything else too interesting in the turn? We I built this mining station up to large. I feel like I'm going to want it no matter what, even if it means that I can't recover for some further exploration. So I just got it out of the way. Otherwise, it's going to just sit on my mind eating at it. Is that wise? Probably not. I'm only allowed to build 1 station per turn, so I can't build the supply station yet anyway. I could have left that other material, but here's the thing, I wouldn't have had a fuel anyway. So I would have had to do something about that. And I think I fucking moved the year marker. I'm not sure. But we're into, it's hard to tell when there's chips exploding all over. Back into the build and service for the next turn. Was one thing, South America got This is the second to last depletion, basically. One more depletion, and this is set. They found a world card they could have placed on that, but they still like this +4 rover card. You know, if they deplete it once more and get a world card that is more appealing, they'll play that. But they're interested in exploring Maria, whoever she is. Hard call for the U.S. I'm deciding to send a crude exploration out again. I'm not sure that's wise. It's costing me all my money to do this. However, if I get some additional exploration going, if I get any political markers, maybe I can send stuff up and start building something at my base, my empty fucking base. Another alternative would be I could have built this and decommissioned this sucker and sent 3 goods up. Or I could have sent 2 goods up, maybe with a smaller rocket, and just left this exploration thing up in the air because I could at least get a mining base with the 2 goods. I decided, screw it, I'd rather go for the exploration. I think it's better overall. I don't feel like the production of a mining base is all that high, although this is a pretty rich planet. It's why everybody's there. And other than the US, nobody's building anything except the EU, who built themselves a rocket, a stager, to send this up as a freighter with enough materials to build a couple bases up on Mars Base Alpha. Russia had a particularly hard choice. Most of the rest, it's just like, I just don't have enough, or I'm waiting for something. For the Russians, they have almost enough to haul a couple builds up at their new base. Basically 2 levels of mining camp, because they got that heavy hauler. But they don't have quite enough money. They're like $2 short. $2 short, I might get that. I've got a couple of things out there that are due soon. So there's enough time left in this decade that I can set that base up later. So I'm still delaying with them. Others, they kind of just have to delay. Here with Russia, I could have sent something smaller up and done it, but it just wasn't economical. And I also have the option of building up here somehow, or picking materials up there that I left, unfortunately, and hauling them to Zastava. But I don't want to do that. I want to use those. They cost me something to get there. It's going to cost me time to shift them around. But they've got a lot of different options that other people don't. Onto the movement and such. Japan, they have nothing out. They have nothing out in exploration. It may behoove me to demobilize this and send materials up. So if I demobilize this, I get, it's minus a fuel and supply. So I get full value. I get 322. That sounds pretty good. So 3 ore, and I can leave these kicking around on Earth in my stockpile because I will almost certainly want them rather than convert them into cash. I don't think I really need cash terribly much. Get rid of this. I've moved some of the other people, but you know, I like being able to screw around a little bit if it didn't matter, especially when playing solo. Okay, so now what do I need here? Well, I definitely need one of these, and I think one of these. Wait, I'm trying to get this up to 2-2. So one of those fills that out, one of those fills that out. A second one is useful for other things that I build. I think supplies are a good thing to have there for bases and such on. I'll leave this as it is, and I'll fire that rocket out. And we'll see if it makes it. It does without a problem. I still have the rocket, which is cool, because it means next turn I can fire that off in another rocket. In fact, I could have fired off stuff in this rocket. Do I want to do that too? Why not? So let's break my fuel into 2, and we'll use the second rocket as well. And I could actually see if that rocket made it before I make this check. So this doesn't create any other differences. That's a successfully. So now we've got tons of stuff up at that base, and it can just start building 1 layer per turn. I may even have enough to start colonizing it. I think I do, which might be even more advantageous. The only thing that I did that kind of was illicit in all this was decommissioning that ship. But that got me the money that I could, that got me the materials that I shot up. That's through most of the exploration phase. I'm just looking, is it all of it? The US doesn't have anything, so yes. So all of the exploration phase. The only interesting thing that happened is this rover. I know why you might. Yeah, so here's the one reason why these need a decommission value. No. They need their cost no matter what. You might possibly disassemble them. I'm not sure if you're allowed to disassemble robotics if you build a base there, because I don't know. But now I've got a useless robotic rover there. And it is, I think, my only rover. So I will probably want to just declare it dead and destroy it. Because it can't possibly find anything. Now, it's possible that this could get boosted by an event like we saw with something. Something got boosted up above its number. Was it this? No. I don't know. Something got boosted above its even base number. And maybe over here, Titan. I don't know. I don't remember where. But something got boosted above its base number, and this could still get boosted back up and be searchable again. But now there is nothing to explore anymore. There are no possible exploration chances there. And this is not a particularly attractive mining site. It's not a particularly attractive technology site. I think I can just pretty much safely say I am going to let this rover die. Now, you might say, well, leave it there just in case. Yeah, except I'm more likely to forget it if I do that. Yeah, all right, we'll leave it there. But if I need a rover, I'm going to have problems. All right, we've got a lot of base building going on, so I'll be back on that. And the most exciting thing is the Japanese just created a settlement. I don't remember if that has an impact. That's something I haven't done, and it's a little weird. Other people, well, we can see a supply station showed up here, a mining station there. But let me just make sure. I don't see anything jumping up that says anything special about settlements. I can buy terraforming points if I have the right tech. Nobody has that. Yeah, I think we're fine as far as I can tell. So, yeah, that's the end of turn of your 46 or 45 into 46. Came up to play again, and I found a problem. Pretty sure the U.S. had packaged up and ready to send this thing, and they didn't send it out. I'm gonna reverse that decision. Mainly the point is, I was just constantly of the thinking, hey, the US can't send anything up. Well, they had a repair set, and it was moving more quickly than other people's. So, I guess I'm sending that sucker to Mars. Because there's more interesting stuff to find near Mars than there is either in Venus or elsewhere. Plus, Venus has that nasty atmosphere. And we would have made the jump. So before this turn gets fixed, this is here. The number is big enough I get to keep my rocket. Less fixable worry, as I started to look at this, I'm thinking, oh, I can buy this ship back, and I can, and some materials to send up there, because I have these politics markers, and they're worth, and here's the problem, 2 resources each. They're not. They're worth $1 billion each, and that's 1 resource each, and I'm worried that I was spending them for pairs of resources, at least for part of this turn. I can't be sure, and there's no way I can fix it. Let it go. But yeah, I am very frightened. I do want to send this ship back up though, because I want to go searching Mars. I have a tricky situation with China here. I want to go get that Venus if I can. So I'm sending a probe on a level 1 booster. It should get there. I might have the booster left, and then I can start shooting stuff up to Tiangong base and building stuff there. And in fact, I could dismantle one of my ships to get stuff if I want. What I don't have enough to do is this and launch one of these in full ready state. Now, I could send this guy up as a 4-point freighter on reserved side, but that would cost me this ship and $1 to get myself a level 3 booster that would carry this. And then I only have $3 worth of materials that I could build, so no reason to risk the crew vehicle with that. On the other hand, if this survives, I can keep plinging stuff up there and maybe get my mining base built anyway, a little bit on the cheap. I probably don't want to keep both these ships right now, but right now I don't have a need to turn them in for resources. So one thing I can't do, which was one thought, is convert this, get this flight ready, launch it with a level 2 to Venus, because I don't have the kind of shielding that I need to go explore Venus with a crewed ship. So for other nations, most of them not doing anything. Again, the delays, hey, it's hard to make the decision because we're getting close to the end of the decade where we probably want to get something boosted. But for Russia, I have this thing, which I could buy a booster that could bring it up and bring materials up to Zastva or Mir or whatever and build something, but I would rather be able to haul this up with a full 6 complement. And I've got my orbiter on Saturn. It takes 1 turn. So it takes 1 turn to launch to Mars, 1 turn to get to the Mars surface. So I think I can wait 1 more turn, maybe 2 more turns, before I have to make the decision, hey, do I have all the resources I want to send? Now, one other option, of course, is, again, I could send this ship to Mir with a booster, carry materials up, and then combine materials here and shift them over. And that might not be that bad. I'm having trouble making that decision because I wouldn't be lifting as much as possible off Earth, which I kind of want to do. That would require an extra turn. So I could do that next turn if I get a boost, and then I could kind of consolidate the resources at Mir and send forward. But that's another decision there. Both Pakistan is waiting, Asia. I mean, it's got India on the flag too, but it looks like the Paki flag to me. I don't know why. It looks more like the Indian flag. Yeah, I know. Somehow, it's a mingling. They have a searcher available. Now, they can't get that to Europa, but and I got nothing on Europa. But I don't have much money, so I don't want to risk a level 3 booster for that. I think I would rather do an exploration or something. And then for Europe, they also have, up to $3 here. I don't have a booster available. I have this ship that, if I spent the $3, I could lift this sucker up, but there's nothing to carry. And I'm hoping maybe I'll get some more bucks before I go forward. All right, time to start doing movement, I guess. Some more base growth. Don't know if he upped to the large mining station. I think he bought the supply station instead, to tell you the truth, but I'm not sure if that was this turn. Settlement over here, again on Mars, and that's about it. And now we push to another turn. 7th year of the decade. basically two people had enough cash to do something. The EU is still waiting for their ship to come in, basically. It'll come this turn. I'll be able to make my choices based on that. I have some funding, and my mission is a comet now. Do I want that? And I mean, it's just discarded, but I'd get a victory point for it, which is kind of cool. And, other stuff if I succeed. So there are some advantages to it. Another option is the Russians, who did spend their money. They did the wise thing, having their Saturn orbiter successful. They can keep testing with that and maybe get other stuff, but that made Pluto show up. So my choices are send something out to Pluto, maybe a flyby of Neptune, and see what happens there. But if I fly by Neptune, there's a lot of people who likely somebody has grabbed it before I get there. If I shoot it straight to Pluto, I could use an orbiter or something there, or even a rover, and have a pretty good chance of finding something. But nobody else is going to rush to get Pluto. Now, I do have room for another mission, so this decade, so it's kind of iffy not to do it, but I was able to package up enough to get myself a double mining, a large mining resource there. So I figure this is just the time to do it. I had enough points to send my big freighter up there, and we'll just see what comes of that. The space flight was just, things that got to their locations and had to maneuver into location. That's one kind of cool thing about flybys is you get your search before you make your maneuver roll, but maneuver rolls are pretty unlikely to fail. None of those had any issue. The Russian launch, though, destroyed the booster. Caught myself in the usual errors, forgetting to lift this up. Since I had it all set up, I just made the roll while I was doing the searches. I guess the important and interesting thing is the Chinese completed their mission on Venus. That drops it down to a 1. That mission marker could go away. It's an interesting thing. If that mission marker goes away and Venus subsequently increases its exploration value, that doesn't seem to bring it back into play. Of course, I'm still set up with an orbiter trying to look for it. I'll probably decommission that thing just because I will want it for something else, but maybe I'll get the same mission again and keep trying. I don't know. Ganymede is not a bad planet at all to go searching in, but probably want a rover for that anyway. And what else? The Russians tired their crew here. Otherwise, I don't think there's much. Time to build up bases. We upgraded any of their bases, and we push to the 8th year of the decade. Interesting thing to keep in mind, I could pull this off the line. Wouldn't actually cost me anything. I'd get 3, 2, and 1 in materials, and I could send 3 of those materials up with the rocket to my base and build that up a little bit more, maybe to a large mining station or whatever. Seems like a good idea overall. Not a whole lot discovered. Let's see, we got a depletion here. It's kind of cool. Gave Russia a politics mark or whatever. We had a crew tired out here. We had a failure somewhere over there at Venus. Kind of a bonus to leave that flying around there because eventually I'll get the mechanical chip for it. But that doesn't help with the rover. That just can't. It can't even try to search, so it can't try to die or anything. I'm not going to learn anything lessen until that goes up. And we've got some bases built up or ready to build up. I don't think we have anything here yet. Japan has a fuel to send up, and next turn they can build stuff. Same thing over here. I don't know yet. I'm going to build one thing, but I may be decommissioning a ship. Well, it doesn't look like I haven't had the points to be able to do it yet. I was kind of hoping to maybe pick up more here, but the 4 is, I think, what I had, and that wasn't sufficient. The Russians got some points, but I don't know what they're doing with it. But they have a base capable of being built here. Now that point, I can't lift because I don't have an engine to pull it up, so that can't go up here and like turn into anything valuable. And North America, I don't see much of anything. I'm not even going to be able to decommission my ship in time, so they are not getting any additions to their base, it looks like. If I had a space yard here, I could rip the ship apart and build like a mining factory, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen, even though I have a rocket here. In terms of research, a couple of people have done a decent amount. So like Russia has a big pile of physics. The EU has a decent sized pile. Some of these others have some. But then, you look at others, the US, which didn't really do much in the way of base building. They had some rocket failure. That's really the big problem for them. They didn't get a lot of stuff, likewise here. But we see South America has a decent pile of stuff set up. So I don't know, it felt to me like the most exploration-based one was the EU. And they've got an interesting base and some exploration points coming forward, whereas the US, which didn't, did kind of the mixed approach that everybody else did, got some crap rolls, so that's why they're so far behind. Let me just build those bases out. Okay, so we're in a bit of trouble here. I'm on and this is part of why I went to bed, is I didn't want to face this. I'm on the 9th turn of the decade. That means I have to make some hard decisions. For example, do I decommission this ship and send the resources up? So I'm kind of looking at, hey, what do I actually produce? That was the first question. And in this case, producing with bases, and I run into this line. CVs can also produce resources, but they do it differently. Okay, that's one of the things I've had in the back of my mind is, okay, but I'll worry about that when I get to the production stuff. C3.52. Well, I'm like, okay, let me make sure, because that number seems strange. I'm in section 3.1, and this is in the turn. That's under exploration. 3.52 is crude exploration. You need space mining. Do I have fucking space mining with anyone? Oh, shit. And if I don't, does that mean I couldn't do what I've been doing? Where's fucking space mining? Crew vehicles can make production capabilities. Okay, so only the EU and Japan can do this. But here's the problem. It happens during normal production. So let me, I haven't seen this. You can produce resources, or it happens during exploration. So you can produce one of that resource. You roll a die, and you get an extra resource. Now, can you do this if there's a base? You cannot use it at a world that you have a base. Yeah, okay. And then you have a possible recall. So this is done during normal movement. Okay. During the normal exploration phase, which is what I was vaguely worried about. But the nice thing is, nobody is in a position to take advantage of it, so I don't need to worry about it. I was a little worried because I thought I might have missed an opportunity to, say, launch this or something. I'm not sure how I would have to get into position to do some mining at the end of the decade, when the truth of the matter is it could have been done earlier maybe, like by this guy. He didn't have it. No problem. Yeah, some of the ships out there have it. For example, I believe this one did. Nope. Okay. Such is life. Anyway, so why did I go to space mining? Why the hell did I buy this? Because it's cheaper than space operations. Gets me towards that. I'm honestly not sure why I went to space mining. I thought I'd need it to build my mining, and then I forgot all about it, and I'm glad I don't. Okay, so I did not think it was just my vehicle mining. Hard to keep track of that whole fucking huge tech tree thing. And what are the answers for that? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, any game that has a big tech tree is going to be a problem for me. Some people operate fine on it. So, more is about my mind. So yeah, back to my question, which was, what the hell do I produce? And we look for that. And another thing that I ran across that I'd kind of forgotten, now that I have bases at Mars, I could actually make it, well, if they have supply stations, apparently. Some of the rules are worded in ways that it's like, is this actually the rule, or is this just kind of an example? And I'll show you that in a minute. But if I have a base with a supply station here, my range for all the nations is 1. I can make it out to the asteroid belt now. And probably some people should have been doing crude exploration out there. All right, now let's find the mining thing. So resource production is equal to the world production value plus any intrinsic benefits, and the larger ones increase the production slightly. Okay, but they say, so the resource production on a world, well, this one is 3 ore, 4 supplies, 5 fuel, plus another ore and 2 more supplies. Okay, that's a lot. That's what a small mine gets you? And then a large mine gets you what? 1 more? 1 more in each, or 1 more total? What? Yeah. I'm going to assume 1 more in each because nothing else makes any sense. And the cost of increasing, to a refinery or even the large mining station seems absurd compared to what you get for the small mining station. Okay. But what was the other thing I was going to look at? Yeah, there was something fucking else. Oh, the crew vehicle range. So here what it says, let me see how it's worded. Maybe it says it specifically. There we go. So there's the answer. This range is the maximum heliocentric distance a crew vehicle can travel from Earth or any base that has a large enough supply station or spaceport to unreserve the CV. So, but isn't unreserved the same as build? It had better be, because, I mean, it's build and service on these suckers. And yeah, if you can't build them at a supply station or a spaceport, you can't build them, the larger ones. And I'm not sure, is there somewhere where there's an exception? I mean, this is the kind of thing. So like I look for a supply station then, and well, it says these are upgraded versions of supply stations, but it doesn't really say what supply stations can do. So then now I end up looking for the build and service ships, and maybe this is different. Earth has a large spaceport, but that doesn't matter. To build a ship at a base, you must have at least a small supply station for LV-1s and LV-2s, a large supply station for LV-3s or LV-4s, a small spaceport for other things. So I can build rockets. Okay, so that's a little weird. and not well expressed on the counters, and not what I was assuming. So a spaceport, you know, still says build and service. Oh, it's got a split. Build is CV2. Gotcha. All right, so it becomes clear once you start seeing the spaceports that build is one side and service is the other. But service is all you need, and you don't actually need to have the materials capable. So there are probably some people who have a supply station. So this large supply station can service a CV3, so the Russians could make it out there with their biggest thing, without, you know, getting a greater range. And that wasn't something that was really on my mind. I thought I was just going to be, I remembered it from when I read it, but, you know, it gets lost. The small one means all I can send is a CV2, and currently I don't have one of those available. All right, yeah. So again, we had to do a little bit of cleanup, you know, mentally to figure out how to deal with this last turn of the decade. And that's kind of what I'm posing on you. Obviously, playing it your first time is going to take a lot more effort. And yes, I babble a lot in the videos, so although you don't get to see much of my actual play, you get to see my description of what happened, because I'm more interested in the narrative than, you know, following the actions of each chit draw or die roll or whatever. I feel kind of guilty when I'm on and I roll dice anyway. But I have to say, I think that 7 to 8 hours, I just don't believe it. At least not for me. It's kind of, I kind of get the same kind of feeling off of other games though too. So like 18XX, you know, people tell me, 3-4 hours for this one. I'm like, you're high. You know, I mean, I've been in groups, I've played it. No one moves that fast, you know, and so maybe for a group that just really sits down, no nonsense, and plays straight through, thinking all their turns through completely while other people are going and slapping pieces down and just, yep, you're next, you're next. Maybe it can take 8 hours or less to do the campaign, but, you know, and especially if it's a small number of players. Because if you're talking about 7 players, each person is making their own decisions. But if you're only talking about, say, 3 players, then you only have 3 people making real decisions. And the rest is handled mechanically, and it's not handled like a bot would be in like a coin game. It's not a situation where you're, you know, having to play out their turn. They just kind of catch up automatically at the end of the decade, which is far faster. But I cannot see a 7-player game of this being done in that kind of time frame at all. You know, it may be something kind of like Civilization, where the more players you have, that's basically the time scale on Civilization. It's 1 hour per player, pretty much. Here, even in a small number of players, I think there's going to be a baseline amount of time, but that might be just essentially multiplied by the amount of players that you have at the table. So if 3 players can do it in 8 hours, 6 or 7 players might be able to do it in 16, you know? One of the nut decisions that I had, which was, I want to look at the mining station and see how much I get. Well, it might still be worth it, but it's not worth that much. So the big jump to the small mining station is huge. That's getting me up to 4 metal, 6 supplies, and 5 fuel. And, oh, that's for research. That's pretty fucking big. I'd have to pay twice as much to get to a large mining station, and I'd basically add, I guess, 1 of each that it produces. Okay. Maybe not that valuable, but still may be valuable. I'm adding 1, 2, 3, 3 additional resources, and only paying, well, in this case, I'd be paying 2. Wait, yeah, 2, 3, yeah. Yeah, decommissioning the ship I think is going to cost me more in the long run than getting that base in place. And then comes the question of, yeah, but what about if I build a different base? What if I get a supply station there? Does that get me anything? Yeah, I don't think so. So I think I'm going to make life easier on myself and not calculate that out and just keep my ship here. The thing is, this may not be the ship I want, you know? I may be higher in tech, and I got no way to balance all that information in my head. I probably couldn't do that even if I was just playing the one country at a time. So I'm just going to sit on it, and I'm probably not losing too much either way, or gaining too much either way. Japan has a fuel resource. I could shoot that up there, build myself, I think, the small supply station. Yeah, the small supply station will cost me an ore and a fuel. And that might be kind of cool, but I'm risking 4 points. So I'm basically paying a 1 point surcharge to get that there based on the dials. Of course, on the other hand, maybe I don't need 2 level 3 lifters, you know? But yeah. Can I decommission the lifter? Because if I decommission the lifter, I can bring more up, and that might be worthwhile. Interesting. You can scrap only CVs. Shit. I wish you could scrap other stuff. Yeah. Well, that makes, I'm going to pull this rover down while I remember. That makes this rover completely goofy there. I can't even, I mean, unless that recovers, I can't build a base, drive it in, and, you know, see if it can turn into some goods. So yeah, if I can't decommission the lifter, I'm definitely not sending the Japanese fuel up either. And it's not like I won't be producing crap. This will be producing a whole bunch of stuff and be able to expand based on that. I come to China and I say, I think I screwed up here too. I think I could have launched this last turn, so I am going to do that. Because otherwise, why is that sitting on top of there? Except to just confuse me. So let's get that launch in. And that made it. And that means I got my mining base there at the end of the turn. And this is just really cleaning up things that I screwed up, you know, and know that I can fix. And I could build a research station, but I am pretty damn convinced the mining station on Mars is the way to go. Until somebody depletes it and, you know, maybe changes that card into something that's not a massive producer. Because the thing is, everybody's engaged there. So some people are going to be interested in reducing the production capability because other people are going to have better production. But we may not see that play out. Part of all that for the build new ships and stuff is nobody did anything. That's okay. If I hadn't looked that stuff up, I might have tried some stupid shit. And yeah, it sucks that I delayed looking it up for so long. But, you know, honestly, I might have had to look it up again if I looked it up too early. On to the movement exploration and such not. There's very little going on in the solar system right now. Everybody kind of got their foothold on Mars. And now we're getting to the end of the decade. Not a whole lot. Things shifting out of the boxes. One interesting thing, the Russians went to their Earth base because they can refuel there. Well, maybe they can't. Shit, I don't have any fuel there. That may be stupid. Let's put this down here. Even though I have a big supply station, which could handle this fucker, I don't have the fuel there. And I sent my forward ship that was at this base with its mining station. I'm sending that back home too because that's going to lift materials. So yeah. I'll only need one rocket to lift this thing, and then I'll have another ship to lift the next turn. So that's pretty good. Otherwise, nothing too exciting. Just things moving around, nothing broke. on to exploration. The big story is no successes in terms of depletions. The big probes coming off the orbiter and the flyby both failed. And, you know, I mean, eventually somebody's going to get that Neptune counter here. South America is kind of unhappy. They were really hoping their flyby would get it. Now they're going off. Not yet to the 1 box. How about that? That's real close. But, you know, maybe they'll go out to Alpha Centauri. Who knows? That's a long trip. That's a long fucking trip. Okay, that's what the plus 12 is for. Now it's the base building, and we got a few to do. Fewer than I thought. Russia built their large mining station. Might as well get the extra production out of that, since I had the materials there. And the EU built a small supply station here, which allows them to put a CB2 out here. That's the exciting thing. Some other people have that. Nobody's got a large supply station though, which would be kind of the really attractive choice. That means we are done with the decade. No new chits come in 2050. I'll put that there just to remind me. And we're kind of in a partial thing. I'm gonna do the decade production again on this video. Not gonna spent a lot of effort in the mechanisms of it because I did it both wrong and right last time. But just come back with the status report afterwards. Oh, the event for the turn is miner strikes. Have the resource production of all bases this economic phase after all modifiers. Add a damage marker to every mining station and refinery in the game. Ouch. Well, I don't know if those impact the production. I'm going to have to look that up. It ain't good. Let's put it this way. And I think an ore repairs that. You can see the small ones aren't wrecked by damage, so at least there's that. But yeah, that's dangerous work out there. We don't want to do it. Now, in some cases, there's no settlement. What's up with that? Yeah, that's kind of interesting. So, I'm not sure who's working the mining station and who's striking in that case and what's happening. The thing is that there are people at these particular stations, servicing them to some degree, bringing supplies and whatnot that they need, and replenishing crew and everything like that, outside of the colony settlement that is there. So you'll have a small crew in place at any base, and that it's completely abstracted, all the supply and you know, repositioning efforts there. And that's what makes sense. Now, resources coming back, well, you know, maybe those resources are in such quantities that the supply and resupply, it's being paid for by resources and fines and whatnot, but it's not sufficient to count for shipbuilding or anything like that in terms of the quantity you'd be bringing back in replacement. Plus, you know, if you're sending new crew in, you're going to be sending old crew back. So you're just talking about the supplies for the crew that are getting replenished rather than being able to like say, well, you know, we have so many crew members we have to replace or whatever. But unless, of course, you know, you space the old crew, but that would probably hurt morale. Okay. The new crew might not be so happy with that plan. Yeah. And now I got to think again about the initiative step. The deal with the initiative step in this case is the first turn. After that, I was very intrigued by the idea of the initiative points. Afterwards, after I did the technology. At this point, though, a lot of that technology is bought. Are there opportunities for a lot of players to gain technologies, at a cheaper price already? That's kind of the question, because you want to be high in the initiative. You want to be up towards the top of the initiative for that. So is there anybody who's really kind of like, oh, I'm at the top of all these charts? Well, the EU appears to be at the top of almost every single chart. You could say the same about Japan. These are the guys who who had high initiative. Well, the EU did. They had a lot of points is really what did it. So then they have to kind of look and say, well, do I have a lot of points this time? Is it worth an initiative buy? I think for Japan it is not, but for the EU it might be. Now the EU's in first place. They can spend 1 political point to increase their value. And I think I'm going to do that. That'll add 10% to their initiative roll. Now, of course, I have the problem of trying to remember, how did I record the initiative values? I used counters. Okay. And this time I'll try to remember that China, with their military technology, already has a plus 20%. I didn't add that last time. Well, using these number counters, I may have to start digging out other number counters. In fact, I may need to use them, period, from another game, just because I'm running out of some higher value number counters. But what we saw initially was, oh wow, US and Russia, some nice big rolls, suspiciously close together, like I didn't roll very well. We'll let that pass. EU then gets something, and they're kind of like, well, what the fuck? But then here I'm running out of counters. This is an 88, this is a 98. So South America has the top initiative now, and we'll keep the ordering there. 88 is next, that's Japan. Anyway, the point is that that South America, or that the EU is going to end up pretty piss poor, even though they added that 10%. And in fact, China is kind of pretty far behind too, with a big 75. We're on the diplomacy stage. This is where things get interesting. So in terms of alliances, what was discussed last time, I had some pushback on that with, well, look, 2 people gain from it. Yeah, they do. So if you got it to free trade or collaboration, 2 people go up to $1 billion in, still don't have a settlement here, do I? Nope. 2 people go up, get $1 billion off of a politics chit. And that's essentially the sort of default worst value off a politics chip. So if you spend it and you succeed, you get to there. On the other hand, and we did the reduction, but it doesn't matter, everybody's at neutral still. On the other hand, you kind of both want to work for it, and maybe you'll get higher. But chances are the best you do is break even next decade. So that's $1 billion you're investing now for next decade, and maybe some more. Where the goods are is if you can get up to the alliance side, because then you start collecting politics chits as well. But I just feel like unless you want to trade or do something else, it's just not worth it. Now, the other side of it, though, is when we get down here. And there are 4 players who have the capability to do military action. Right? So this is what's weird. So this allows strike combat. I think actually people have capability anyway, but the EU in particular is very militarized. Do I want to go, military on someone? What are the gains for that? What are the losses? And my feeling there is, like in most of these type of civilization expansion building type games, doing so makes sense if you need to bring someone down. But I'm not sure there's anyone who really needs to be brought down. And so I think no one is going to be playing the diplomacy chits, because one of the things, here's the other thing. There's only one person who can declare embargoes right now, and that's China, and they're not militarily prepared. So no one's going to militarize at this point. Even though some people did build up towards their militarization, they didn't choose policies that would allow them to move into the weaponizing space step. So very well. Okay. So no diplomacy then, other than the mandatory role that couldn't possibly do anything. Which means we go to our production. And the Earth production is going to be similar to before. We're not on a new chart yet, but we also have the bases, the mining bases. So one thing that definitely bothers me about the way the tech chart is organized, things like this. Your ships and attack values, with attack values, can fire in the strike combat. Okay, that's fine as a reminder. But somewhere in the rules it should say, you need this tech to fire in this stuff. Otherwise, it looks like you can use it. Drones, I think another thing in here. This is it's a representational thing, but basically you have to be looking for why you can't do something in order to figure out that you can't do something. It's the kind of thing, it's kind of like why my job is necessary in computer security, is that people have to be thinking about, I have to be looking for what's not there, basically. I have to be checking in a lot of cases, but it's not a good way. We see in my work, we see lots of flaws because of this, but it's basically a matter of somewhere it should be telling you, you must do this, or you're not going to, you're going to just assume it's going to work. And in this case, you see ships, they have this capacity. It doesn't say cannot use until this. There's not a lot of room on the counters. It doesn't say it in the rules under strike combat choice. Does it? The drones do. But let me see. Maybe this does. Maybe. Who knows? Make a direct fire. Okay. So here's the thing. Only the person with tactics can make a combat direct fire, and it's possible neither side will have strike combat. But again, I don't think there's anywhere in the rules where it says you can't do this unless you have this tech. And that's the kind of thing that this kind of tech tree really makes it painful for. And I'm not sure how to organize rules in such a way. These are kind of paragraph rules with little case rules that SPI used that I feel work a little bit better. You can have things like case something requires this, much more easily. It's harder to spot that in sections that are largely just written as paragraphs. That may just be personal taste, but definitely it should be called out. Whenever there's something that you want to do, if a tech or some kind of special card is required in order to do it. At the very least, these are present visibly to everyone in a difficult to read format, but you've got, I've run into CDGs and such that have some card that gives you the requirement that allows you to do something that it looks like from your counters and the rules that you can do. I can't think of an immediate example. Most of them do catch and put it into the rules, but man, if the counters look like they support it, you really have to burn that into somebody's brain that they can't do it. If they have, it reminds me of my friend Tom
back when we first started, let's throw some more extraneous stories in here. When we started playing Rollmaster with him, he wasn't used to that. He was used to D&D type games where, I'm a druid, I can do this. He basically was playing a druid, and in Rollmaster it's a skill-based game, but it has classes. You pick a class, and it makes certain skills cheaper than others. Well, he didn't take anything that was druid-like with his skills. He concentrated on combat skills. And I was kind of new to running Rollmaster at that point and didn't just well, no, not that new. I wasn't expecting, and I didn't look over this new player's character very carefully to see, hey, can he do what, does he have any basis here? I may have pointed out, well, you've made all your skills kind of combat related. Is that wise? Without really pushing the point to him. But then he got into some situation where he's like, oh, I'm going to, use my druid abilities to identify plants or something. And I'm like, well, what's your skill in identify plants? Huh? And, so he's got the no proficiency penalty and all this. And basically he was a druid who knew nothing about druiding. And that's kind of the issue. People will almost invariably, unless it's pointed out to them, assume they can do things that, in this case, the counters seem to support, but there's definitely a presentation of information problem with this game. There's a lot of information that's coming through, and it's so much that I'm not really sure that there is a good solution to it. It's one of the burdens in design is make sure, not just that the game makes sense and works for people who, are intimately familiar with it and have been playtesting it heavily, but also make sure that it's approachable, that you're not going to fuck up everywhere because the information basically is memorized tribal knowledge for the game that, yeah, you might run into it, but the first few playings, the components just don't support what you're looking at. And yeah, I'm sure wasting up airtime here for no good reason. Welcome to my channel. The reason I was looking in the combat rolls at that particular point was to try to figure out what that point of damage means to the base. It means nothing. It means the base is a little bit weaker. It's not going to affect the production. As far as I can tell. Again, maybe it's buried somewhere that I don't see. But the two places that I would think it would be is the post-combat effects. I don't see anything about any impact of damage there. And the repair rules where, yeah, it'll cost me ore to build it up, but, who cares? You're not going to want to repair this compared to other costs. Does that damage stay when you upgrade it? I don't know. I think maybe I'll make a rule, just spot roll. You can't upgrade a base that's damaged. Because otherwise, yeah, what are we doing? We're cobbling on more parts while this thing's breaking down. What? The drum circle that relocated to my park, I don't know whether because of protests or because of rain, is being a little quieter right now. It gets really, really annoying sometimes. It's kind of a pity that I came up here. When I did, they just started it soon after I got up here, basically. And pain in the ass, really. Anyway. I have kind of cheated a little bit, which I like to do, in terms of doing things a little out of order. So I did my production in conjunction with the tech, because the tech is, sitting there. I might as well add it along with the tech that's in the production limit and the bonuses for missions. Not developing tech. I haven't done these two steps yet, but then I jumped ahead and did settlement growth too. I don't know that there's any real harm to doing that since I'm digging in here. Now, what you can see is Japan's a special case because they had a lot of shit there, but most of the bases that have a mine attached to them are producing about the same amount of stuff. But the large mine just especially with the halving, doesn't add much. It adds only one resource to begin with, and that becomes like maybe a resource after the halving. One thing I did notice though, you'll notice all of these, or if you've got a really sharp eye, you'll notice all of these are different. Well, that's the back side of them. What I noticed was, hey, they're different between here and here. What's up with that? Well, I think what it is this is the ground base. Again, it's not something that's stuck in my head. I don't think it's explained. I don't think it's of any great importance, but it does help kind of quantify what you've got where, what kind of base it is, whether you have to deal with re-entry or something, if that's of any importance. I don't think it is. There doesn't seem to be a modifier. Well, I mean, there might be if you're here. But so, for example, the gas giants, the fact that they have this volatile atmosphere, I think the only thing that impacts is some of the world cards that will, like, result in that. It seems like it's going to impact exploration. Well, maybe crude exploration is impacted by it, but rovers, like crews, can't go to Jupiter. But the orbiter is specifically not mentioned in it. Only the rover is, and the crude exploration. And I actually think these say you can't do crude exploration anyway. Yeah, no CV or rover exploration. So the fact that that has a volatile atmosphere is absolutely unimportant for all of the gas giants. I don't think you can explore them with anything other than orbiters, which is a little disturbing. You can, however, build bases in orbit around them. So what else do we do? Well, we'll back ourselves up here and trade. So people can transport. Each movement of one resource counts as a transport. So this is kind of a big deal. There's a couple of people who have this, I believe. Okay, I thought there was. Trade routes, yeah. You can transfer up to 5 resources. So these nations, I'm going to make some quick decisions whether they have resources that they want to move. What are the restrictions? Any base in Earth. Well, clearly for the US, I can just start putting stuff on Redstone that'll allow me, to build it. With some of the others, I probably don't want to be moving resources back to Earth. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Even though I've got nice production going up here, I want to invest in my bases. So unless I'm like in a situation where I'm likely to go to war and be blockaded or something, which obviously isn't the case here, I would rather just keep expanding outward. You don't want to pull resources back to Earth. Hard part of all of this, I got to do this before the tech. That's hard because I really would rather know, and I kind of feel like it should be in the opposite direction, but I'm not going to cheat on that because it has a material effect. But I have to run simulations in my head if I wanted to do this right to see what is it that I need to build there. Do I need a supply base? Can I get a large supply base with the points I'm going to build? What's going to happen? What am I going to haul later? All this kind of figuring out and prefiguring that I hate doing. I don't like that amount of thought in advance. For me, fucks up the joy of playing a game. I'm not going to do it here. I'm just going to make best guesses, and I'm going to be disappointed in a lot of cases probably with what I discover about my best guesses. The cool thing, and again, it's an abstraction having to do with there's shipping going on that the game is not reflecting directly beyond that trade routes thing, is I actually have resources that I could build people there. Like I could start building a settlement. No biggie. It's absolutely essential that resource transportation happens before the technologies are developed. The reason being that if it went the other way, I could buy that and then use it immediately. Now, how big a deal is that? I mean, I can buy technologies like a carrier or a crewed vehicle and use it. I see CV and I think carrier, sorry, and use it immediately as well. And now the drum circle has changed to some kind of woodwind.
This is our current political situation, or our current technology situation. You can see EU built up shielding. Otherwise, big pushes in technologies that people already had explored. One player did not push as far as they could, which is the South Americans did not spend politics chips to get military capability. They're going to use those for money instead. Seems like a better deal at this point, which is a big deal because, I just think that the military aspect, a lot of people are militarizing, they're fairly well, and why bother going any further? The only real off-the-wall thing, well, the EU shielding so that they can go into radiation zones with their CVs, which really means Venus. I guess building bases around Jupiter might mean something. And then people catching up with Russia here in the space ops with the recall rate down to 40%. Now for Russia, that's 35%, which is actually pretty cool. And other than that, most of it's kind of compacted. A lot less research this turn than last turn. And now we have all the research results that are out there, which kind of sucks, but that's life. A whole lot of time zoning out over this, trying to figure out what I can play and doing each nation one at a time. It really cracks my back. I mean, I'm in a lot of pain after stooping over that much. My tables are kind of low. That's generally helpful. It allows me long reach. When I was playing 7 days with 9 tables set up, essentially 6 tables plus 1 big backdrop, I think I can actually do more than that at this point, because this table's new. I have a folding card table that I didn't. What I don't have up here is one of my big tables. That's my desk now, so this would have to replace that big table, and it's not quite as good, but that's okay. With the card table, and everything's about the same height. You can see this, and if I really needed to, I got a different table that I could use as my desk, but I've got that down. I was playing Gloomhaven on it, for example. Right now, it wouldn't be easy to do. And there's also always the option that I could just clear the tables out of here. This is a nice big room and play right on the floor. So, if I end up doing Case Blue and Guderian's Blitzkrieg combined, or whatever the monster OCS is, yeah, I could do it. There are things I couldn't do. The shape of this room and size is not humongous. It's possible I could do huge things down in the main area of the house. I don't know. I don't think I can face anything that big. All right, so that gets me here. We've got some trade markers to pull, and that actually should have happened already. I don't think it impacted anybody anything. I did the settlement growth, then we have the policy step, and then this video goes off. The material was all pre-programmed on paper and didn't rely on all the little chits that other people have that impacts your cost of getting it. It's not just does somebody have it, like in Age of Renaissance. It's each person reduces the cost. So technology's become very cheap, and you spend a lot of time trying to figure out. Mainly the composition of this and the valuations here, which could be kept on paper. There's no reason you would have to use the track the way I do if you were playing opposed. And the information here. I'm just constantly sorting through these stacks, looking for how much money do I have, what can I buy, what's the cheapest thing that I can buy that won't impact, and cheapest generally means it's not going to impact other people because I'm coming in late. Certainly there's some consideration of, well, what do I actually want? Which could come into play. So shielding was not what the EU particularly wanted, but they can't get to frigates without it. The question, did I want to get, through component design? not terribly, you know. Yes, it would be nice, but REs start becoming less and less important, and this is malfunctions that only affects the REs, so it's less desirable than some of the other options. And elsewhere, well, what are the things I really want here? Yeah, the recall rate is nice, but space habitation is also nice, reducing the base cost. I think the minimum cost is 1. The exploration bonuses, the bio stuff is looking really appealing right now. And that's not as easy to get as you go on. There are still worlds with bio, but they just haven't been terribly available. Mars was the big source, I think, of that. But anyway, that's the pain in all that. And now, I did settlement growth already, so now it's the decisions on policy. Well, let's work our way back and think about those. I don't know. I'll be back in a moment. One of the things I'm noticing is these support limits. I'm not really pushing them yet. And so buying more of those may not be the wisest choice. And so for our support limits, or for our policies, base support limits, some of those are very low, like 1. And the countries that have ones, China, US, Japan, they have all upped their base support over the course of the game. China actually picked up politics this time. They were already up on the base support, the need for that. Pakistan, I think, bumped this in. They may have dropped a politics in there. I guess the most exciting one, EU and South America both concentrated on the politics. I feel like those are going to be more valuable as time goes on. It's getting harder to get the technology that I want. Maybe we need to start building tech bases. But that's expensive, you know, you're giving up your building capability. Certainly Mars was just too good to be true. But what's really cool about this one is I can exchange my politics markers for 3 tech points each. So not only do I get these additional politics markers, I hope. If I don't, that kind of sucks. But I believe that's the case. I believe this 1 extra is replaced by this 2 extra, and then the 3 tech points is in addition. Otherwise, it's not really worth your policy. Now, if I recall correctly, you're only allowed 1 of these top-ranked policies, which means I had to be counting. Right now, we should be at 3 policies each. At some point, we're at 10, and then it's, do you want to shift your policy by 1 somewhere? Okay, and that's going to put us to 2050. Although sort of we're already there in the production phase and in the build and service ships. And this one's going up, and I need a break so badly. The drum circle seems to have broken up, but I can't just keep playing. My back hurts too damn much.